Welcome to The Explainer. So glad you're joining us. Today, we're tackling something that is literally the foundation of our entire existence, but let's be honest, we usually take it completely for granted. Our planet's wealth. We look around and see these simple gifts of nature. A rushing river, a sunny day, maybe a deep forest. But there's this hidden, incredibly high-stakes story behind how those natural gifts actually power human civilization. Sometimes they trigger massive crises, and ultimately, how we manage them might just save our future. It's a wildly fascinating journey, so let's just jump right in.
First up, we need to set the ground rules and define what we're actually talking about. Because believe it or not every piece of nature automatically gets to be called a resource. For something to actually earn that title, it's got to check a few boxes. It has to be useful, and we have to be able to technologically access it. Like if there's a massive deposit of minerals buried so deep inside a mountain that we literally don't have the tools to dig it out safely, well, it's not a resource yet. It also has to make economic sense. If it costs us more to dig it up than it's actually worth, we're leaving it in the ground. And this last one is absolutely crucial. It requires cultural acceptance. For instance, if a local community considers the water in a specific lake to be sacred, using it for, say, heavy industry is culturally unacceptable, so it can't be classified as a resource. It's really this incredible intersection of nature, technology, economics, and human values.
So, here's our roadmap for the Explainer today. We'll quickly define nature's gifts, compare renewables with non-renewables, explore this concept called the paradox of plenty, dive into the Punjab water crisis, and then wrap up with some real solutions for the future.
All right, Part 1, Nature's Gifts Defined, categorizing what keeps us alive and thriving.
Since there are literally countless natural things out there, we kind of have to group them to make sense of it all. Generally, natural resources serve three main purposes for us. First, they're essential for life. Think about the air we breathe, the water we drink, the fertile soil that grows our food. No-brainer, right? Without these, survival is just impossible. Second, they act as sources for materials. This is the clay for pottery, the iron we forge to build skyscrapers, the granite and copper shaping our cities. And third, they are providers of energy. We're talking coal and natural gas for industry right alongside the sunlight and wind powering our homes. Literally, everything we do traces back to this foundational energy drawn straight from the earth.
Moving on to Section 2, Renewables versus Non-Renewables, the limits of our planet's generosity.
Now, there's a pretty stark contrast in how these resources actually behave. On one side, we have renewables. These are nature's incredible self-healing systems. Sunlight, wind, river water. We can use them over and over because they replenish naturally. They're practically inexhaustible, assuming we use them sustainably and don't, break their natural cycles of restoration. But on the flip side, we've got non-renewable resources. We're talking coal, petroleum, natural gas. Stuff that takes literally millions of years to form. Once we burn through them, they are gone. Period. And extracting and using these fuels can seriously throw nature out of whack, driving climate change, piling up industrial waste, and polluting waterways so badly that it devastates aquatic life.
And honestly, the clock is loudly ticking on those non-renewables. Experts are warning us that despite having massive coal reserves in places like India, the totally booming demand for electricity means those reserves might only hold out for about 50 more years, just half a century. It's a massive reality check. Until cleaner energy is universally available, we absolutely have to be smarter about using these limited supplies and just stop the unnecessary waste.
Which brings us right into Section 3, the paradox of plenty, also known as the natural resource curse.
Okay, so you'd logically think that if a country is sitting on top of massive natural wealth, it's automatically going to be incredibly successful, right? Well, expectation often completely clashes with reality here. Instead of booming economic growth and great living standards, many resource-rich nations actually run into slower development, crazy economic instability, poor governance, and sometimes even severe conflicts. This is the paradox of plenty. It usually happens when a country relies way too heavily on just exporting its raw materials and completely fails to build up the industries that would turn those materials into higher-value products. Now, India has largely managed to dodge this specific bullet by consciously investing in industries that actually use its raw materials for public welfare, rather than just shipping them all off for export.
To really wrap our heads around the massive scale of global resource distribution, check out this fact. Because of its massive geographical footprint, Russia holds the largest share of natural resources on the entire planet. We are talking colossal reserves of coal, timber, and gold, adding up to an estimated value of around $75.5 trillion. Trillion with a T. It's staggering. And this incredibly uneven distribution of wealth across the globe is exactly what shapes international trade, political alliances, and the strategic upper hand that certain countries hold.
Let's look at Section 4, the Punjab water crisis, when abundance turns into overexploitation.
So, what actually happens when a vital resource is poorly managed at a local level? Well, the story of groundwater in Punjab is a perfect, if heartbreaking, example. It really started back in the 1960s. Farmers there started planting these new, high-yielding varieties of wheat and paddy seeds. Now, this was fantastic for food security, but those new crops were incredibly thirsty, way more so than traditional seeds. To meet that massive demand for water, farmers started pumping out groundwater like crazy. But the real game changer? The availability of free electricity. By taking away the cost of running the pumps, it basically gave a green light to massive overpumping, completely draining the resource so much faster than nature could ever hope to replenish it.
The fallout from this has been just staggering. Today, almost 80% of Punjab's land is officially classified as overexploited. The groundwater levels have plummeted so far that in a lot of areas, you literally can't hit water until you drill down 30 meters or more. And to make matters worse, the heavy use of chemical pesticides and fertilizers has seeped down and mixed with that remaining, depleted groundwater, creating some really serious health risks. It is a textbook example of how chasing short-term gains can lead to absolute long-term environmental disaster.
I know, it can sound pretty bleak, but don't worry, we're not without options. Let's head into Section 5, Solutions for the Future, Regenerating Our World.
Seriously, we have some incredibly inspiring case studies to look at. Take the state of Sikkim, for example. They recognized that chemical fertilizers were just completely degrading their soil over time. So they made this huge conscious shift back to organic methods, using natural compost and pest repellents. And get this, by 2016, the entire state became 100% organic. The payoff was just massive. This sustainable approach didn't just heal the earth. It led to way better crop quality, seriously higher incomes for the farmers, a surge in biodiversity, and even a boom in tourism. It's living proof that respecting nature's cycles is actually fantastic for business.
And over on the energy front, the solutions we're building are equally massive. I mean, just look at the scale of the Bodla Solar Park in India. It's one of the largest solar parks in the entire world. It perfectly captures that critical transition away from those limited, highly polluting non-renewable fossil fuels we talked about earlier. By tapping into the literally inexhaustible power of the sun, countries are stepping up to their environmental responsibilities while simultaneously unlocking totally new economic opportunities.
But here's the thing. Scaling this up can't happen in isolation. It takes serious global teamwork. Back in 2015 at the COP21 summit in Paris, India and France teamed up to launch the International Solar Alliance, or the ISA. It's this brilliant coalition designed to bring sunlight-rich countries together to collectively harness solar energy. It's all about improving energy access, fighting climate change, and, maybe most importantly, sharing the tech and creating affordable financing so that developing nations can actually afford to make the leap to sustainable energy too. Wow. Okay, we've covered a ton of ground today, from what actually makes a resource to the wild economics of global wealth, localized crises, and some genuinely awe-inspiring global solutions. But before we wrap up, I want to leave you with a question drawn straight from our source material today. It really cuts to the core of everything we've talked about. Why do you think population growth increases pressure on both renewable and non-renewable resources? Seriously, think back to that 50-year warning on coal, or the fact that 80% of Punjab's land is overexploited. How does sheer human expansion change the math of nature's gifts? Ponder that one for a bit, and let it shape how you look at the world around you. Thanks so much for hanging out with me on The Explainer, and keep on learning.